The ASD brain typically is a very visual learner in a verbal world. And so sometimes verbal instruction is a little more difficult to digest. And so that's why I'm repeating myself several times. And plus, I want to build up to what we're going to talk about next. And it takes a little background to get to that point. So my big goal, not that you necessarily ever needed to know this, is to reduce your relationship stress. That's my personal goal. If I can get there, that suggests a bunch of other stuff happened. So how can I get that done? Well, one of the best ways I can get your relationship stress minimized is to make your wife happier. Pretty much a simple straight shot there. How can I make her happier? If she were here, she would complain. Her number one complaint certainly would make the top three. I don't get any empathy, no emotional reciprocity from that guy. Okay, so what would be one good goal to get some emotional reciprocity? There's many ways to do that. We have been targeting probably the number one way, and that is through communication, because when she has tried to discuss difficult topics with you, it's very possible that you either did some mild or severe version of a shutdown or meltdown, shutdown, meltdown, or maybe just gave her some false agreement where you, yeah, I'll do whatever you want. Yeah, whatever you say, that's fine, but didn't follow through. One of those three things. And so we're trying to not do that anymore. And so what do we do instead? We're trying to be assertive. How do you do that? Well, we want to avoid being passive or aggressive, which by definition is either some version of shutdown or some version of meltdown. We want to be assertive. And so, well, how do you do that? We want to hang in there for conversations. How do we do that? APV. So we want to do APV, which is active listening, paraphrasing, validating. What is that? Active listening is stop, look, and nod. Stop what you're doing, look in her direction, and nod as she's talking. What's the P? Paraphrase. What's paraphrase? That means you're going to repeat back what she said using your words. Why is that important? Because if you run it through your filter and you say in your words what she just said, and she says, yeah, that's what I mean, bingo. By definition, she knows that you understand. V is for validation. What does that mean? You're going to basically tell her what you did. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. And then the third piece is, and I respect the fact that that is your perspective on things. That's your truth. And I'm not here to defend myself or prove you wrong. I'm here to listen to understand. So that's your validation right there. So that takes care of what we talked about up to now. Then we go, okay, so am I just supposed to sit there and say, yeah, honey, I hear you, I understand. That's your truth. And then that's the end of it? Obviously not. That would be nice if that could be the end of it. So two things. Well, one thing. APOV is alternative point of view. That's your view. Nowhere in did I say agreement. A wasn't for agreement. I didn't say, okay, listen, validate, and then agree with her. It's not part of the equation. You're not a potted plant sitting over here in the corner just supposed to keep your mouth shut and not have an opinion about anything. That's not assertive. If I said that, I just contradicted myself because I'm asking you to be passive. And maybe you've done that. I'm sure you have. You've kept your opinion to yourself for fear it would just start a fight, which made a bad problem worse in the long run. So APOV is alternative point of view. And so this is where you tactfully say, ask for permission. And what I mean by that is when she's said her piece and you've actively listened, paraphrased, and validated, you're going to say, however you want to word it, would you be okay with me giving an alternative point of view? Now, some of you might be thinking, well, isn't that just a defense? No. You were listening to understand rather than mount a defense, which that may be a fairly new thing for you, because I'm sure a lot of times when she was talking, you really weren't listening. You were thinking, okay, how am I going to come back on this? How am I going to tell her how she's wrong and how I'm right? Mounting a defense is something that you do instead of listening. And then if you engage in defense, what your mission then is, and we don't want to do this, is to prove that she's wrong and prove that you're right. It's a little bit like she's on trial and now you're the prosecuting attorney. And okay, you were wrong with that assessment. Your truth is basically irrational and overly emotional. And quite honestly, I think you're crazy. And that's why you should shut the hell up and listen to me. Not that you necessarily ever said that, but that would be a defense. We're not doing a defense, an alternate point of view. I respect that that's your truth. I see it quite differently. Would you be interested in hearing my truth?
Hey, this is Mark Hutten. Would you like to schedule a one-on-one Zoom call? Okay, it's so simple. Just look under any of my videos in the description area. Click on this Calendly link. Now you see my calendar. Pick your month, your day, anytime that's available. Enter your name and email address. Then you'll get a follow-up email with the Zoom link on the day and time that you picked. And voila, we will talk.